Okay, going live
Yeah, it
now.
says we're live.
1 second.
And
I'm
then on
just
the
going
YouTube.
yeah, I'm going to go live on the YouTube as well.
Okay. And if Amparo can, or Simon or anybody can stay in to do the changes between the screens, because I don't think I can do that from the mobile.
Okay, okay, we're live.
Great. Perfect. Sorry for the wait, everybody. It's been a little bit of a problem with technical issues, but we've resolved it finally. Thank you so much for waiting. Hello, planet Earth, and welcome to Lilia's Weekly Wednesdays. And thank you for joining us, especially to my two special guests who have been here waiting while we have been dealing with these technical problems. I'm Lilia, and my pronouns are she and hers. And as the creator of Facialteam's 3,000 plus Facebook group, which we founded 8 years ago, I've been an ally to the trans community since about 2008. So as such, I've always felt very much like an ally, and I've wanted to do something more for the community, and that's why we're doing these live streams. It's a way for us to highlight some of the amazing people, such as our guest here today, which are doing wonderful things for the trans community. So during Trans Awareness Week, I'm very honored to have two special guests from two countries, as usual. Trans healthcare provider, Dr. William Powers of the USA, and Sarah Savage of Brighton Trans Pride of the UK. Thank you and welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me too.
So to those of you listening now, please put down your comments here just below. Please share your comments and we'll try to incorporate them today into the conversation. So I will give now one of our guests the opportunity to introduce themselves a little bit. Dr. Powers, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. I'm Dr. Will Powers. I'm a family physician and HIV specialist in Detroit, Michigan. My practice is unique in that about 70% of my patient population is transgender. I have over 1,000 transgender patients. I've been doing this now for about, I guess a little over 7 years. Yeah, that's wild to really think about. It's been a little more than 7 years now taking care of transgender people. I provide unique care that's kind of tailored to the individual patient. I'm kind of well known for the Powers method, which is very difficult to put into words, but is a way of approaching treating transgender people with their hormone therapy that is customized to each individual patient. And then I've got a practice that's kind of crazy. It's themed around video games, and we have giant Savannah therapy cats that wander around. So it's kind of a fun place to go.
It sounds fantastic, and I hope to get there to meet you and the cats, of course, one day. Thank you so much again, Dr. Powers, for joining us, and my sincere apologies for the
You should be sorry. You should be sorry. How dare your internet go out? I mean,
It's crazy because we were ready to go.
I know, we were literally talking, so the people who are not, that are watching right now, we were literally talking, doing the green room setup. Like, okay, everybody's connected, blah, blah, and everything's good. And she's like, okay, we're going to get ready to That was literally all I saw. It was just like frozen, complete. I was like, oh, that's not good. And I was like, is it me? Nope, it's not me. Okay. So we're good now.
As you know, I live in Rwanda, so I don't know if it's something to do with the connection here in this mountain village, or
you don't have that high quality American internet. That's the problem.
Exactly. So Sarah, please tell us a little bit about yourself here. Very happy to have you here today as well.
Hi, I'm really pleased to be on. It's great to meet you both. My name is Sarah Savage. I was on a TV show in the UK about 10 years ago called My Transsexual Summer. And I started my transition on that TV show. This, by the way, is Indy. She is a very cuddly cat at the moment. Anyway, so after being on the documentary, I and Fox Fisher and about half a dozen of us founded the UK and Europe's first ever trans pride event in 2013. And we have since grown it to, we had an attendance, the last year that we had it IRL was over 10,000 people. And I'm also a children's author. I have 2 books out at the moment. And I have a 3rd book out, or it's in production at the moment. I'm not sure of the exact release date. And I'm an all-round kind of trans activist, trans campaigner, shouty person on the internet. That's me.
Amazing. It's such a pleasure to have you here today, Sarah. I've been dying to be able to talk to you in person. And you know, since we started talking years ago about sponsoring Trans Pride in Brighton, and even before that, yeah. So thank you for joining us, both of you. So today we're trying to keep the focus on the theme of family, because that's what we're focusing on this month. You know, we have in the US Thanksgiving, and the holidays are coming up. So yeah, so family seemed like a good thing for us to highlight. So to start off with first, you know, as many of us do in our homes, we have pets, and we all seem to be cat lovers, as Dr. Powers mentioned, but he's got some special cats. Can you tell us a little bit about your clinic cats, Dr. Powers?
So there are 5 cats that come to my clinic. There's Phoenix, who's here today. Actually, I could probably open the door and let them in, who's the half brother of the Guinness World Record cat I used to have back in the day. And then Fenrir, who is the full brother of the world record cat. Corvus, who's the full brother of the record cat, but only Fenrir is gigantic. Fen is about, you can see if you look up their Instagram is starcats_Detroit, like star, like stars in the sky, starcats_Detroit. Fen is now 14 months old. They grow till they're 3, and he's 26.5 pounds. And he stands about, well, I don't want to say exactly, but he's very tall. It looks like it may be happening again when it comes to a whole height anomaly. And then there's also Hyperion the Bengal and Polaris. All my cats are named after stars. So throughout the years, Regulus, you know, Cygnus, Arcturus, they've all had names like Sirius. They're all named after stars, every single one of them. Fenrir is technically a moon, but his middle name is Antares. So yeah, I'm a big cat guy and also a huge nerd, and I like space, so it works out.
That's so cool.
Dr. Powers, he's very popular as a doctor who specialized in HRT for trans people, and your amazing personality, I think, is just also contributes to your popularity.
Some people will call me eccentric, but okay.
So I also wanted to mention before we get started on the family topic is that this is Trans Awareness Week. So we want to make sure, you know, if any of you who don't know what it is, please look it up on Google, Trans Awareness Week. And Friday, the 20th of November is the Trans Day of Remembrance, which is kind of a sad moment where we remember some of those people who we've lost along the way in the trans community, be it a result of violence, which is fairly common still around the world, unfortunately, or suicide because of social isolation. So please do whatever you can to support your trans family, your trans friends, your trans partners, etc. So Sarah, I'd like to start with you on the family issue. If you could tell us a little bit more about, from 2 different perspectives, the trans kid, no, or the kid with a trans parent. And you have books that sort of speak to both of these people. Can you tell us a little bit about the books that you've published so far?
Yeah, sure. The first book that I published was Are You a Boy or Are You a Girl? And the whole point of the whole point of the main characters, we don't specifically state what gender they are. So the whole book is referring to them with gender neutral names. It's beautifully illustrated by Fox Fisher, and it uses gender stereotypes to really get children to talk about what gender means to them. It's just really kind of a laid back book with not really that much, you know, preaching or anything. It's just about getting that conversation started between a parent or an older relative and a child about whether they are a boy or a girl. It kind of sprung from a discussion I had with I think a 5-year-old once. And this kid was just fascinated with me because, you know, I am a force of nature, and I look very, very different to the majority of people. And this kid kind of walked up to me and was like, "Are you a boy or are you a girl?" And I'm like, "I'm both." and it's just about opening up this conversation, breaking down stereotypes, talking about what gender identity and gender constructs and how we perform gender. So the second book is called She's My Dad, and it is for children who have a parent or relative or an older person in their life who is transitioning. And this one serves to act as like a springboard, another springboard for discussion. This one was illustrated by Jules Garcia out of New Jersey, actually, and I'm absolutely in love with the illustrations, and it's all about cats as well. So, and it's just about that. There's an incident in the book where one of the main characters' friends accidentally misgenders her parent, and Kat kind of steps up and kind of explains what misgendering is and why we should make the effort to pronoun people correctly. And yeah, honestly, these two books are the thing I am most proud about in my entire life. You know, everyone wants to be a children's author, or, you know, everyone says that they want to write a book when they're in school, and to have achieved it with the support of the community is just amazing.
They sound awesome, and I can't wait to read them, Sarah. So I assume we can purchase them online?
Yeah, you can get them anywhere. I recommend getting them from bookshop.org, because they get in contact with local bookshops, and you buy the book directly from your local bookshop instead of a large multinational corporation, and you can support your local community as well as buying really cool books.
Sounds great. Yeah, they started something like that here in Spain as well.
Ah, cool.
How about you, Dr. Powers? These books sound good for some of the patients that you see?
So I actually already checked them out. I found them, of course, on a multinational corporation, Amazon. Hyperion has come now. He wants to say hello. This is Hyperion is a Bengal. He's one of my smaller cats, but he's an Asian leopard hybrid. But all my cats are hypoallergenic. That's the other thing. So I can have them at the office because they lack the LD1 gene. But yeah, so I checked those books out, and I actually was part of a children's book that came out a little while ago where I had like a little blurb in it talking about things. But I think, how can I phrase this in a way that kind of best explains how I feel about it? So I'm autistic. It's not really a secret. I'm pretty open about the fact that I am. I'm really high functioning, and I see the world in black and white. And I was raised by a very, very conservative father, and grew up in a really conservative area, like between two Amish farms. When I first met a transgender person in college, they explained what they were, and I was like, oh, so wait, you're a boy, but you want to be a girl, or you think you're a girl? And they're like, sort of. And I'm like, well, that sucks. And that was basically my thoughts on it. And I was like, well, that's unfortunate for you, but okay. And it didn't really bother me. And the reason it never really has, and I've never really cared, people always think that I have like a transgender, that either Dr. Powers is secretly transgender, that my egg's gonna crack, or that I have some transgender sibling or family member or something, and I just don't. Like, I really just don't. It just happened accidentally. But I don't look at these people as anything other than just people. They just are this way, and that's just how it is. Like that, I don't really have any opinions about it. I don't really care. And that's how children look at the world. And I know it was kind of a long loop to get there, but like, my brain just sees it as it is. So when you explain things to children, they don't really have any biases. They haven't spent a lifetime being told that like, oh, well, these people are weird and you have to hate them. They don't really have anything about them. So if you say to a kid like, hey, this is how I felt, like, I used to be a boy, but it made me sad, and so I take medication now, and now I'm a girl and I'm happy. They're like, oh, okay. People take medication when they don't feel good, and then they feel better, and then that's it. Like, that's enough for kids to grasp that concept. And I think any book that can lay things out for them in a way that is age appropriate to help them understand what's going on in their life with one of their parents or a sibling or something else is always a good thing. So as I did actually page through some of them, I was like, yeah, this is actually pretty cool. It's very straightforward and kind of helps like elucidate, I guess, the situation that they're in. Because to these kids, it's confusing, but so is everything. I mean, there's a good XKCD. I love being wrong. That's actually one of the things that's kind of weird about me is I really enjoy being wrong. The instant I find out I no longer am wrong. But I don't know everything. And sometimes I encounter people that I'm like, how in the hell do you not know that? How do you not know that? But then I remember this XKCD comic called The 10,000. So it's like if blankety blank people over X period of time will know about a thing, then effectively by age 30, 99.99% of the population will know about it. So 1 in 10,000 people won't. So if you find somebody that doesn't know about something like, oh, you've never heard of Super Mario? Well, you're one of today's 10,000 and I get to go show you something cool. So rather than like shame people for not knowing or not experiencing something, like it's an opportunity to show them something neat that they've never experienced before. Kids, it's like every day they're one of the 10,000. Like everything is new to them. They don't know anything about the world. Like they're blank slates. And so if you offer them something that helps them understand the world that they're in, the situation they're in, and it's presented in such a way as to be kind of neutral, which is, I like the way that the book is written, because it's not really, you would expect it to almost push an agenda, but it really helps just kind of like, this is the situation, and this is what's happening, and this is why. And then that's it. I think it's great. I think anything like that is great because it helps people understand. And to be honest, sometimes things like that can also help adults understand.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's the adults that need more understanding.
You go back and read some children's books, like The Giving Tree and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, I grew up in a conservative Christian family in a really insular island in the middle of nowhere, and to be able to know that trans people exist was incredible to me. I remember I was probably 13 or 14 the first time I ever saw a trans person, and I was in my 20s until I actually met a trans person. So because we're like 1% or whatever you want to count of the general population, it's actually pretty rare for people to come across a trans person unless you're really seeking it out. It's getting a lot less common now, but having that idea of possibility, I think was really important, just to explain matter-of-factly in these books what transition is, and it was really important also to show a family that was inclusive and loving despite the transition, because that's something that did not happen for me. So I want to show children, I want to show adults that it's possible.
Absolutely. So Dr. Powers and Sarah, we're going to talk in a minute about etiquette as far as in the healthcare setting. But before that, I'd like to know from both of you. I don't know, Sarah, if you've been to write your books, have you been working with families and children? And are you coming out with another book?
Yeah. I spoke to, when I was writing one of the books, I was seeing someone who had 5 children actually. 4 of them lived with her, and they were all under 10. So I could kind of use them as like a sounding board for my ideas, and they'd never met another trans person before they met me, and I was really struck by just how simple it was for them. Are you a boy or are you a girl? I'm a girl, but I'm also a bit of a boy. And then they say, okay. And then they pick up their toys and they carry on with their day, So I really, really wanted to just show that it was matter of fact. People transition, it's the way life is. So I have another book coming out. It's in production. It's called He's My Mom. and it's a sibling book for She's My Dad. And I'm trying to pitch They're My Parent as well, because, you know, I like to have things in threes. But yeah, that one is also being illustrated by Jules Garcia. And yeah, as I say, it's in production at the moment. It should be out early to middle of next year.
Fantastic. Well, we really look forward to that. And I'm sure that these kinds of books, Dr. Powers, would assume are welcome resources to use in the clinical setting. No, when you are approached by parents of trans kids or trans parents who are coming in with their children.
I mean, any resource I have that helps people understand is a good thing. I have developed lab panels to try and figure out why people are trans. Sometimes I can, to some degree. If I find some obvious genetic mutation that creates some endocrine abnormality, it's certainly highly suspicious. I'll give you an example. I have a female, you know, assigned female at birth human, who comes to me that says, I want to transition to male. They're 15. Dad is like freaking out. He's just a complete dick about it. I don't know why you want to ruin your body like this, and you're such a beautiful girl. And let me tell you, they were not such a beautiful girl. They looked like a pretty standard, oh, no, there we go. Pretty standard teenage boy. They were already very masculinized. Then I ran their androgens, and kid turns out to have a testosterone value around 200 nanograms per deciliter, which I think for you guys like 600 nanomole. This is an insane number, basically, for someone assigned female at birth. And turns out that they have, the long story short, they end up having an adrenal adenoma, which produces testosterone. And that's why the kid was like feeling this way. It's like, oh, shocker, they have a tumor that makes testosterone. And when Dad found that out, his whole tune changed. And he was hopeful, of course, that when we removed it, that they would go back to feeling differently, but their neural architecture had already been laid down, and that was kind of the game. But like, as soon as the bigoted dad, who was like, I can't believe this, and blah, blah, was like, oh, so there's a medical reason for this? And I'm like, yep, kid had a tumor, completely different human being. So like that moment, that epiphany of like, oh, this isn't just a selfish thing this person is doing to hurt me, but like there's a reason. And that for me, I try and justify this medically, and other people can do what is helpful in their field. And for Sarah, she can do it in other ways with like the book and help them understand. I think it's great because there's always going to be a lock and key to get somebody to understand something. I didn't realize I had autism until I saw Temple Grandin. And I literally saw her speak and talk about the cattle chute thing where they squish the animals to make them feel calm. And I'm sitting there having had all the experience I've had my whole life. And I have this memory of being a little kid and wearing a feety pajama suit, like the zip-up thing that's like the whole suit, and stuffing the inside of the suit with stuffed animals, which then like made the suit like squish me. And I would lay in bed and I would feel comfortable, like with a suit stuffed with stuffed animals, which is the most bizarre behavior that apparently no one questioned back in the day, but like is exactly the kind of stuff that an autistic kid does. So like, it's hilarious because we see these kids that present with obvious gender dysphoria and gender nonconforming behavior very early on. And then there's just denial on behalf of the family. And yeah, sometimes those kids are, you know, it's a tomboy or a feminine boy or this or whatever. And like they grow up and they're not trans, but sometimes they are. And so having a resource available where you can be like, no, this is sometimes a thing and helps people understand is never going to be a bad thing. And I'm always going to want to have that available because I don't know what the lock and key is that's going to get the parent or the kid to understand why it's happening. I have a lot of elderly people to transition. That's something that I do. And I have special hormone regimens for them to be a little safer. And it's really difficult for their kids to grasp like how their 70-year-old father would like to now transition. And, you know, it's just mind-boggling to them. And I have some resources for them to help them understand it. So I think that your books are great, Sarah.
Thanks. I'm really pleased to hear that they're being used because that's why I wrote them. You know, there's just, as far as I was aware, you know, 5 years ago, there was very, very little stuff for children, just simply explaining it, you know. It's really an honor to be able to write these books. Sorry, Lila.
No, sorry. That's fine. Yeah, I just wanted to say it's fantastic, all this information that that you're talking about Dr. Powers and how resources like these books that Sarah has published and the ones she's bringing out are all very important for helping even in the clinical setting for everyone to feel comfortable and understand what's happening. And I just want to do a shout out here for our viewers. We've got quite a few people. We have here over 60 people watching from all over the world: Canada, Spain, the UK, Arizona, and we've got so many comments in here. I saw somebody mention Two-Spirit. We want to make sure that all of our non-binary people feel welcome too. And when we say trans, we know that non-binary isn't exactly the same, and we want to make sure that you know, we are including gender non-conforming people as well in this conversation. So thank you everybody for attending. And there was some questions. There was a question here for Dr. Powers here. There's a couple of questions, let's say. Dr. Simon's watching too as well. Thank you, Dr. Simon. For So Alexis asks here, can you provide an update on the status of V7? I'm not sure what V7 is. Can you tell us what V7 is?
Yes. So all right, so here's the deal with V7 and why I'm like dragging my feet on letting that go. The PowerPoints were never meant to be a thing that would be shared across the universe and like used as like a trans Bible. That wasn't their point. The point was for me to be able to give a lecture to other doctors to help them get a base understanding of this stuff. Then I went and gave that lecture at Beaumont, basically as a local hospital system, to their doctors and their residents, and they recorded it and they uploaded it to YouTube, which is not mine. They're like, his lecture, like I didn't really intend for that to happen. It just did. And then people started to watch it, and people started to watch it, and people started to watch it until it was just like, oh, and now it's been viewed, I think, damn near 250,000 times. So I know without a shadow of a doubt that anything that I put out for version 7 is going to be picked apart. It's literally going to be picked apart because there's lots of people that don't agree with a lot of things that I do. Like off the top of my head, I have someone that I can think of, like Dr. Seal in the UK, who just does not agree with the way I do things. And I don't agree with the way that he does things. We're both doctors and I respect their opinion, but there's literally a slide in my PowerPoint about how something he says in his stuff is factually incorrect. Like, and it's dearomatase, that testosterone converts to estrogen, but too much estrogen cannot convert back into testosterone. If I don't have the necessary citations and backing and justification for literally every little tidbit in this version 7, I'm going to get crucified over it. Then I'm going to end up making a video of this, which is likely to be viewed even more than version 6 was. So I don't want to put something out prematurely that is not exactly what I want it to be, with all the necessary backing and grammar and spelling typo and everything to be perfection. So I have released a lot of the most critical stuff that I've realized over the past few months on my subreddit. That's like so I had a patient yesterday who had a testosterone of like 4, a DHT that was undetectable, and they weren't making a lot of progress. And I ran my new lab, the 3-alpha-androstenediol-gluconoride, and that should be less than 300 in a cis female. And theirs was 946. I would never have picked that up before. I don't know what androgen they have. It's not T or DHT, but there's something in their body, some intermediary being made by their adrenal glands because their status post or orky, so like there's no other way they would make androgens. It's there. And so I put them on Vica, and I've done this people, and they've gotten good response where I had previously not had them on a blocker. I put that out there on Reddit just to be like, hey, version 7 leak, here's some stuff. But when the actual PowerPoint is ready to be released, it'll be ready when it's ready. So like I am no longer, it'll be soon, like I believe the word in Spanish is ahora. It'll be ready ahora. That's my favorite. Like, where are we going? Now. It'll be soon. And it just literally means like, ahora, vamos ahora. Like we're going now, but then no one's moving. And you're like, but when's now? And it took me so long to understand that word when I lived in Spain. I was like, but you said we're going now. And they're like, yeah, vamos ahora. And then like, we'd spend the next 45 minutes pre-gaming before we left. So like, it'll be ready ahora. Like it'll be ready when it's ready.
Yes, that's very typical. It's kind of like the mañana thing, no tomorrow.
Yeah, mañana.
Ahora, which is now, but really it means in a bit.
A little bit, yeah. Soon.
When we're ready.
Ready when
Dr.
Facialteam 3 comes out. How about that?
I just want to mention now, I believe we're putting the link down in the comments right now to the live stream that we did several months ago with Dr. Powers on Facebook, and we recently just uploaded it to our YouTube channel. So you can go to our playlist of live streams and you'll find a former live stream where Dr. Powers talks more in depth about B6 and the Powers method and HRT. We focus more on HRT in that live stream. And I was really, well, I wasn't amazed, but I was pleasantly pleased with all the comments that we got on YouTube from people who watched that replay of our live stream. And I just want to read a couple of them so Dr. Powers knows. And I wish he had said more about the treatments of HRT in Europe. People are always saying that because everybody outside of the US is dying to get access.
But I'm an American doctor, so I don't do that.
Exactly.
Hey, in Europe, we buy our hormones illegally off the internet.
Well, Lena handles a lot of things.
Another comment here was, so glad you had Dr. Powers on. The knowledge and experience he's freely shared from his lecture has enabled me to take charge of my own transition and have had a far more beneficial physical and mental benefit from it.
Cool.
Yeah, so there's so many comments here. There's loads. I can't read them all, but lots of positive feedback about everything that you have been doing, Dr. Powers. So thank you.
I guess I've gone about it differently. Other doctors, they want to publish this, publish that, and be like critically acclaimed by I just don't care. It's not about money to me. Bitcoin's killing it right now. I've been in that a long time. I don't do this. I do this because I enjoy it. I find it really rewarding. And so people are always like, well, why would you put all your formulas out there for free? I'm like, why not? Like, I don't know. I don't feel like that profiting off of concealing information is a good thing. And when I bite it, which I eventually will take a dirt nap, I'd like to know I did as much good as I possibly could, not I did a lot of good and made as much money as I possibly could. So I don't know. I sleep well at night.
Absolutely. So I'd like to ask both of you, Sarah and Dr. Powers, if you could sum up and say a couple of phrases to somebody, a stranger recognizes you on the street and says, I'm either a parent and I'm trans and how do I talk about this with my kids, or I'm how do I explain transition to my parents, or the fact that I'm non-binary to my parents or other family members? What are some of the things that you would say to them? Sarah, would you like to start?
I mean, to keep it factual, especially for children, just say, I always thought I was a girl. I always felt like a girl, a woman. And so now I am one, and just that's it. You don't need to explain gender constructs or anything super complicated. Children like simple information, factually presented, very simple, and they accept anything you tell them almost. So it's just about being simple, about being age appropriate, and you don't need to explain the nuts and bolts of transition. You just need to explain that some people are born in bodies that do not feel like they are their own, so they change them, and that's that.
Thank you, Sarah. How about you, Dr. Powers?
I always use a really, really over-the-top analytical biochemistry sort of thing, but it helps. So redheads, those mutants, they got this MC1R gene defect. That's why they're redheaded. It's a broken gene that messes with tyrosinase and that makes them turn out freckly and redheaded. That is a mutation. We know this. We don't really consider redheadedness as a disease, but cystic fibrosis is due to a broken gene, and that the CFTR doesn't work right, and that's a disease. If the MC1R is broken, you're a redhead. That's just how it is, right? But we don't pathologize that. We just view it as that person just has that allele and they have red hair. And they occur at approximately the same rate that transgender people occur in the general population. And so the best way I can explain it is, imagine if you had somebody that you knew who their entire life that you've known them, their hair has been black. It's just black. It's always been black. You just always thought they had black hair. And you see them after a few months and their hair is bright red, growing out of their head like that. And you're like, what is the deal? And they tell you that they've always been a redhead. They've just always dyed their hair. That if they don't dye their hair, it grows out red, and they've stopped dyeing it. because that's the way I look at transgender people when they come out. It's not like they weren't always a redhead. They were always a redhead. They've always been a redhead. Their hair just was dyed. And they reached a point where they were finally tired of dyeing their hair. And so they're going to let their red hair show, and then everybody can see it. Everybody's confused because they're so used to them being one way. But in reality, this is the way they've always been. It's just now blatantly obvious to everyone. And so families that look at their little redheaded kid and are like, well, we don't want any redheaded kids in our family. You have to dye your hair. Well, that seems ridiculous, right? Like, that's a totally crazy thing. It's kind of like there was an American kid that went to a school in Japan, this girl. She's blonde, naturally blonde. And they tried to force her to dye her hair black because, like, that's in Japan, like, they have like certain hair color standards you have to have, like, to be like part of the school uniform. And she was like, no, I'm not dyeing my hair black, like, because it's not black. Like, that would be artificial. My hair isn't the natural color. There's a whole battle about it. But, like, it's kind of the same concept. Forcing a kid to be something they're not so that you feel more comfortable would be equivalent to what we do to these people. So recognizing that, just, you know, and I don't want to say like a defect, but like in all reality, the overwhelming majority of the patients that I have, I can pick up some kind of anomaly in them before they start HRT. Something. The FTM is more than the MTS, but they've got some sort of hormone weirdness going on. No one chooses to be trans. Nobody. I mean, if I have a kid and they turn out trans, I'll be like, shit. Because I don't want a kid that's trans. I don't. Because it would be really hard for them. In the same way that I don't want a kid that's disabled or blind or anything of that nature. I would want them to be happy and healthy and life to come easy to them. And like, if you're selecting your character at the beginning of the game of life and you click trans, the difficulty bar goes boop and jumps up over to here. And that's just the way it is. So like, I don't want that to happen to them only because it would make their life harder. But I can also, as the parent, not make their life harder for them. We can take these people and be like, oh, so your hair was always red the whole time? Oh, well, I guess that's okay then. And then let it go and let them just have their red hair, because it doesn't hurt me at all. And it does hurt them to force them to be something that they're not. I don't know. That's how I look at it.
I'd just like to say here that I think in a sense you speak from personal experience, because I imagine being autistic for you was like something that was additional that you had to work through, right? Dr. Powers, do you think that that's true?
It is every day. It is right now at this moment. Right now, I have a mask on. I always do. The only person that ever really knows the real me is like my immediate family and my wife. That's it. Because the real me is a machine. I'm like an analytical box, and I struggle to have the normal empathy and other things. And I built constructs on to be like, okay. And that's kind of how I got to this point with trans people. Like I said, when I first met one, it's like, really? Wow, that sucks. And like, that was how I felt about it. Now I have kind of artificially created an empathy and understanding for them. Once I can tie it to something that I have personally felt, like when my house burned down and my cats got killed and like I lost everything and I lost my job and my friends and like everything. Yeah, I was like, oh, I guess this is God being like, hey, this is what it feels like to be trans. And I immediately after that point had so much more empathy for them because I understood what it was like to lose everything like that through something no fault of your own, so to speak. So yeah, I mean, having to wear a mask all the time and be super cognizant of everything that comes out of my mouth. Like as I'm talking, right, like offensive, annoying shit is in my head. And I'm like, no, I shouldn't say that. And my brain literally just went, you probably shouldn't have used a curse word on this video chat. And then I'm like, well, it's out now. There's nothing I can do about it. But I'm constantly doing that in order to be able to function in society. And to that regard, yeah, I really empathize with them, especially the people who are watching this that are stealth. Like right now, that like either one, you're stealth because you've finished everything, or you're stealth because you've started nothing, that they're completely pre-transition. I empathize with them just because like, it's that thing that sits in your chest that's just kind of always there that you just wish wasn't, but it is, and it's just core to who you are. Uh-oh, that's not good. Oh, never mind. The Michigan just put out an emergency alert for our COVID situation over here because we're Americans and we're stupid and we refuse to wear masks. So I'm not kidding. Beep, like the like Amber Alert thing. So like, anyway, that's completely derailed my point now. I don't know what I was talking about.
No, thank you so much for, I mean, really, Dr. Powers, everything you're saying, I think is so useful for the listeners, and be they allies or parents or binary people or trans people. Sarah, do you have anything to add to what Dr. Powers has just mentioned?
I mean, I like, as a trans person who was stealth, lost my family, lost my home. Being trans on top of that really sucks. But you know, I would like to point out also the other side, the positive sides, you know, and I don't regret 1 second of my transition. I wish I had started it sooner. I wish there was more knowledge around, you know, so I could have found out about being trans and realized that it wasn't, you know, some weird fetish that people would forever hate me for. And realized that it was just this completely normal thing and nothing to feel guilt about. You know, once I'd got through that, then my life is 100 times better. And I am kind of pleased that I don't have to deal with my family anymore, because they were never great. And now I can build my own family, and my own family are my friends, the people I keep around me, and I don't regret that for a second.
Thank you, Sarah. And we've got a lot of comments coming in now on YouTube, and I just wanted to highlight some of them. Christina, thank you for coming in from Washington, D.C. She's got a very specific question about testosterone for a person who wants to maintain a healthy, functioning penis. And I don't know if we should go into that. That might take up a lot of time, and we're trying to focus on family.
Pretty quick answer. What's the question?
The question is, can you explain how typical testosterone affects the overall testosterone level and any other issues?
Sure.
For a person that wants to maintain a healthy use of—
I use 0.5%, 1 gram topically to the genitals once a week. And historically, when somebody had atrophy of their neovagina or pain or whatever, that the recommendation from ES was to put estrogen on, which is dumb, because whether you like it or not, embryologically, that tissue's origin is a penis. So if you've restructured it to be a vagina, the nuclear envelope of those cells is going to respond to testosterone. That's what reverses the atrophy. You put it on, reverses the thing. But people are always worried about, well, what's going to happen to all that testosterone going in the body? Think of it like an Olympic swimming pool that has like a kiddie end, okay? You take a bucket of dye and you pour it into the kiddie end, and you take a sample from the kiddie end. You'll see a pretty high dye concentration. But if you go all the way to the other end of the pool, it's going to be next to nothing by the time it gets out there. That's how the trick works, is you use topical testosterone at a very low dose, applied topically to the skin, so the penile skin soaks it up. And yeah, in the penis, the testosterone's probably around 1,000 nanomole or even higher. But yet, once that volume of distribution goes out to the whole body, it's diluted so much as to be clinically insignificant. So my patients generally pick up 20 to 30 nanomole per liter from using 1 gram of 0.5% once a week. And I have tons of cam girls and porn stars, and like I take care of a lot of the transgender porn star industry, and they all use the topical testosterone to the genitals, and they don't have any problem with remasculinization, as long as you don't overuse it, once a week. That's as quick of an answer as I can give to that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Powers, for that. I think that probably is extremely helpful to Christina. And we have Kylie here who's saying she wants to clone you and fill and make more of you, people like you, in the healthcare system.
Can we just replace you with Leighton Seal, please?
I'm sure he's a really good guy. Like, I'm sure he's a nice guy who tries really hard, because that's the thing. Like, none of these people, right, that do this are assholes. They're all people who want to help this population. It's just there's a debate about what's the best way to go about doing it. And that's it. So it's important that, like, people use me as like the trident to poke the W path with, that they're pissed when they don't get good hormone care. And it frustrates me, because, like, while I disagree with Dr. Seal, he and I are on the same team. We're both trying to help you. So, like, it's important to recognize that, like, as angry as they get, that even if someone's, like, efforts may not be exactly what you want, they're still at least trying. And that's helping you more than the people who literally do not give a shit, think you shouldn't be able to have anything.
That's a really good point, actually.
Yes, yes, I agree as well. And I just want to point out another comment here that sort of speaks to you, Sarah, and what you were talking about, and how culture can be an obstacle. I know our family environments sometimes that we are born into are an obstacle, especially in Asian countries. Apples and oranges. Thank you for your comment. And where in Asian populations where there's a strong patriarchal society. And I just want to bring up that this week was also International Day for Tolerance. And I would like to propose to everybody here listening that we write to the United Nations saying that the name should be changed to International Day for Acceptance, because it's not about just tolerating, it's accepting. And as Dr. Power said, it's about we're, wearing masks. He's wearing a mask. People are forced to wear masks or be stealth. And it's not about tolerating these people and forcing them to wear these masks, but accepting them as they are, whether they are trans, non-binary, gender non-conforming, or autistic. So I have another comment here. Let's see here. No idea, Zhao. Should we deal as patients with doctors that still prescribe dangerous doses of medication? That's for you, Dr. Powers.
So you're the one who puts the pills in your mouth. You control that. They can write you whatever they want. You can pick it up at the pharmacy, but ultimately you decide what you choose to put in your body. You can't make someone write you more of a thing, but you can always choose to not take something. So I have patients that have gone to Planned Parenthood that write them 4 milligrams of estradiol a day and 100 or 200 milligrams of Spiro. And that's what everybody gets, like cookie cutter, this is what you get. And they just choose not to take the Spiro. I shouldn't say I have patients, I have spoken to patients. They just choose not to take it. And like, that's their choice. But in my opinion, having at least some care is better than none. And you are certainly in control of your own body and your own actions and your own everything. And I've talked upon this before, that like, I'm very much a person who says that like personal responsibility is key. Like physical fitness is on you. Success in life is on you. Your sheer willpower, and to use my own name, but literally like willpower to just not accept failure, it determines the outcome of your life. So like, if you're not satisfied with your physician, then you need to find another one. And if you lack the self-motivation to do that and put the effort in to do that, I mean, you can complain on internet boards all the time about how crappy your doctor is, but you could be taking that energy and putting it into finding a better one. So like, I guess to answer that in two factors: one, it's kind of on you to be the best advocate for your own care, because nobody else is going to give a shit more than you are. And two, you control what goes into your own body. So if there's something that you don't feel comfortable taking, you don't take it.
I really love that response, because that's exactly what I've been doing for years in the UK. You know, the gender clinic prescribed me one thing and I don't want to take that much of it. So it's all about body autonomy and finding your own confidence to take control, take charge of your transition, and do whatever it takes to make you happy.
I mean, we're all going to die, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of people don't think about that. And maybe because I'm weird that like I constantly think about the fact that I have like 2,248 weeks approximately left to live. But like there's this anime called Death Note. And at one point, the guy gets the eyes of the Shinigami and you can see like how long everybody has to live at the top of their head, like a timer. If we could actually see that number, we would live our lives completely differently. So like, it's important to recognize that like you have a timer over your head. And the best way to play this game, if you're going to play it, is to enjoy playing it as much as possible. Just enjoy, like, because there's always the like, but next week, and I'll get to the like things will settle down at my clinic, like when I'm dead. Like things will settle down next week after I'm finally in a box. Like until then, life is always going to be crazy. There's always going to be some other bullshit. There'll be a pandemic or an election or like there's always something, right? So like, take charge of your life. Take charge of your health. And if you want something, put the effort into getting it. It really is that simple. And so like, but don't forget that like time spent not being happy is not time you get back. And if you don't know how long that timer is, you really should be putting your effort into making sure that the time that you do get to spend is good, which is one of the main things that I feel about trans people, is that I'm like, well, I mean, shit, this sucks. I'm sorry that you're trans. I can't fix it. If I could flip a switch and you'd feel better about the body you're in, I'd do that, but I can't. So I might as well do whatever it is I can so you get to enjoy as many of those weeks that you have remaining as possible. Like, that's just how I look at it. So like, if covering somebody in tattoos would make them happy, then I'd be like, sure, it's your body. Do what you want to do with it. I don't know why other doctors struggle with that. Now, I'm not going to ever do anything that will harm someone. But like, I have a patient that has metastatic prostate cancer. And they came to me and they had to lie to me about having gender dysphoria so they could get estrogen. Now, they're smart enough to know that when they're on bicalutamide, which they're on for their cancer, they feel like shit. No one will write them testosterone. And other doctors, they asked for estrogen and no one would write it for them. They didn't feel comfortable. So they heard that I would write estrogen for people, came to me and was like, oh, I've always had gender dysphoria, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at their background and they have a background in biochemistry. And I'm like, you just want estrogen because you feel like shit on on bicalutamide, right? And they were like, would you prescribe it? I was like, yeah. And I wrote it for them. And they're like pseudo transitioning, like their skin is softened, they've got a little breast development, but like they are not trans at all. But they feel great. They're like, I can play with my grandkids again. I have energy. Like, they were willing to accept the feminization side effects of estrogen to be able to enjoy what life they have left with their metastatic cancer. It's the same concept for trans people, or literally anyone. You're going to die eventually, like memento mori. So like, have as much fun as you can till then, people. Like, that's the point. Like, that's, and other people who are suffering, do your best along the path to like, be like, oh, hey, I have some extra resources. I'll help you out as I go by. That's it. Like, that's how to lead a good life. Try and be happy, do what it is that makes you happy, and reduce the suffering of other sentient things. That's it. That's like my motto for everything.
I think that's a good motto. And Sarah, we've got a comment here for you too on the topic of, you know, family and helping one another. Christina here, she says that, like the story you said regarding your family, her mom wasn't as helpful, and eventually it drove a wedge between herself and her mom and her father. And so she wanted to know if you had any suggestions about how to approach this, and to go back to the family topic.
So because my family were fundamental Christians, I grew up believing with all my heart that the world was going to end and God was going to come and save just our religion, and then we were going to live forever and it was going to be amazing. And I hated it. I hated the idea of living forever. And I really find comfort in a finite end to life. I agree with so much of what Will says. and
Through that, I want to be immortal.
Oh my God, immortality would scare me so much. So again, it's really important. You know, I know that I've only got a few years or however many years left. I know that life is finite, and I know that spending my life wishing my family would change their minds when there's nothing that I can reasonably do to help them change their minds would just kind of drive me into this deep pit of depression and despair. And I have been there in the past. And the thing that really got me going and made me care about my future is the fact that as I touched on before, my friends and my family, and I am closer to the people that I decide who are my family than I ever was to my birth family. And you know, I just focus on my friends and I bring them close, and I have random people come and live with me because they're homeless at the time. You know, it's just about creating your own family, creating your own bubble of love and acceptance, and you don't ever have to worry about you know, your birth family. If they hate you, they hate you. You can't do anything about that. You know, if they can't get past the fact that you're transitioning, then screw them. You know, like, concentrate on your life, make your life happy, and if that is with or without your family, so be it.
Can I add something to that? My father and I didn't speak for 8 months. My dad's a Trump supporter. and we got into an argument over LGBT rights and other stuff, right? We didn't talk for 8 months. And I regret that time. I regret that I did that. Just because my father and I don't agree about that doesn't mean that we can't have a relationship and I don't love my dad. I love my dad. I don't agree with a lot of his beliefs. He'll make a statement like, you know, Muslims are infiltrating America and they're going to institute Sharia law. And I'm like, ugh. But this past weekend, my parents came up to visit and my dad and I sat there and played GoldenEye 64 together for like 5 hours.
Oh my God.
And it was like just nostalgia city. And I had a great time and it was awesome. And I love my father. And so even though we don't agree about everything, and there's some stuff that is so bad that he says that I'm just like, it's repugnant to me, he's still my father. And so I think a lot of transgender people, I'm not saying that you should be in an abusive relationship. If someone's abusive to you, flat out abusive, and like their relationship's totally toxic, clearly there's no benefit to that. But it's also important to realize that like sometimes transition for families feels like you're killing the person they love. And that is really hard for them to accept. And I give this as an example, like I got tired of being called Billy. My grandfather was William, and they called me Billy, little Billy, and then William, the grandfather. And I hated Billy. And I decided at like 14 years old, I was going to go by Will. I was like, I don't want to be called Billy anymore. And the amount of people that screwed up and just kept calling me Billy, it went on for ages, years, like 5, 6 years till I got Will as like a majority of what people would call me. And I realized in retrospect, that's a lot of what it's like for someone to transition. You're asking people that have known you your whole life to suddenly look at you differently and call you by a different name. So I always say this, and I always get shit for it, the like hug a Trump supporter. Try and empathize with the people that are behaving this way to you and hurting you, because in loving them is how you yourself can heal from the damage they've done to you. Even if you don't have a relationship with them, if you love them and you accept them for their faults and the things that they do wrong and how they hurt you, it's like at least you're not drinking poison and hoping that they get sick. So I'm sorry about your family and you don't have much of a relationship with your family, and that's unfortunate. And if you've decided for you that having a relationship with them is a net negative in your life, then I respect that. But sometimes it's taken to a point where like someone comes out as trans, and if they're not immediately referred to by their perfect pronouns by their parents and everything is accepted 100%, like, and they just flip a switch, that like their parents aren't being supportive. And like, that isn't the case. They love that person and they're literally experiencing the death of the person that they knew and this new person that's come to replace them. And that's how it feels to them. And so having empathy for other people's perspectives that you don't agree with, and I don't agree with my father's views on many things, but I understand why he feels that way, why he grew up in like a desegregation environment, like why he's gone through these things, what he saw. And his father, like, so my grandfather beat the shit out of my uncle for bringing home a transgender woman. My uncle brought home a transgender woman as part of like when he was dating, and my grandfather said, "Get that thing out of my house," and beat the crap out of them, both of them. That's a thing. That's a story I grew up with as a kid. And like, that's what my father was raised on. That was his ideal, like his archetype man that he should be was his father. I've chosen through a lot of therapy, which I can't even tell you how much therapy I've done, to not carry on that cycle. But at the same time, having empathy for these people that hurt you is the only way that you will ever actually heal from the damage they have done. Otherwise, you just bury it. So just keep it in mind.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Completely agree.
So Sarah and Dr. Powers, I'd like to ask a question and keeping on the family theme. And if anybody has questions about many other things like hormone gels and breast development, etc., please write to us at facialteam.eu or to Dr. Powers.
Yeah, I have a subreddit. So like there's a subreddit on Reddit. It's Dr. Will Powers, Dr. Will Powers. If you go there, you can post your question. And if I have time, I'll answer it. If I don't have time, 22 other people will respond to you who all know the same biochemistry that I do, the exact way I do methods. So it's gotten to a point where I literally almost don't even ever have to reply because people answer the questions that I would answer. So I strongly imply people that like go to the subreddit and handle it that way. It will work much better.
Yeah, we've shared the link to the subreddit in the comments, so people can join there on Reddit. It's really great, very active,
and post some funny memes.
It's a wonderful community. So yes, Sarah, I was going to ask if you could start to talk about the clinical setting. If you could start with telling us a little bit about how your clinical experiences could have been better. So consultations, and if you've had any trans-specific healthcare, how was that process failing you in some way? And then I would like Dr. Powers to respond with how he recommends in professionals to, you know, sort of the bedside etiquette and what works best for him in his experience. So Sarah, could you tell us a little bit about the problems that you think that a lot of trans people have in the healthcare setting?
Yeah, sure. So in the UK, I waited almost 2 years for my first appointment. So that was awful. There was no opportunity to have any kind of bridging hormones. I had to see a psychiatrist as well before I even got to the gender clinic to prove that I wasn't insane in some way. I got into my first appointment with the gender clinic, and one of the first questions the doctor asked me was about my sex life, and I was like, it's fine. And then we sat in silence for almost a minute while he tried to kind of wait for me to crack and burst into tears and pretend and say that my sex life was not fine or whatever he wanted from me. And then I waited, what was it, 3 months until you get a second appointment, and then you get prescribed the bog standard hormones. And I had to lie to the gender clinic because I wasn't presenting, super feminine. I went there, I was just wearing shorts and a t-shirt. I think it might have even been the same t-shirt that was my favorite t-shirt before transition. I just cut some holes in it. And there's no real aftercare as well in the UK. Nobody really checks your levels. Everything is really, if there was an instruction booklet, so you're getting hormones, this is what you need to do, these are the levels you need to aim for, this is what you need to check, something like that would be really, really good. I just found that in the UK, in the specific gender clinic that I went to, there was very much a culture of them trying to catch you out, and them acting as like the gatekeepers of the hormones, and you have to pass their tests before they will allow you to pass. What would have been really, really cool for me is if I didn't even need to go through my doctor or a psychiatrist to see someone about my gender, and then for that person to have an open discussion with me about what my expectations for transition were, what I wanted, what I didn't want. It would have been really awesome just to have someone who I could, just chat to and connect with, and not have to have this big barrier of if I say the wrong thing, they're not going to give me the hormones that I want,
I'm not trying to laugh at you. I'm just laughing at how sad the situation is in the UK.
Oh my God.
Think about when people show up and they're here and they've already done their gender counseling or whatever they need to do. One of my most famous phrases I say to them all the time is I am a really good pilot. I am an excellent pilot. I can fly you wherever you want to go. You just got to tell me where you want to go. So what are you looking to accomplish here? What are your transition goals? And then they lay them out for me and I go, okay. And then I design their hormone regimen around that. And that to me just seems like that should be the standard of care. Imagine if you went to a tattoo parlor and you were like, I would like a Bart Simpson on my arm that says, don't have a cow man. And then you got a butterfly. And you'd be like, but this isn't what I asked for. And they're like, well, yeah, but it's a tattoo though. That's what we give everybody. And you look at the people leaving and they all have butterflies on their arms and you're like, why did I come here? Oh, that's right, because it's the only tattoo shop in the whole country. And I'm not trying to laugh at you, laughing at you. I'm just laughing at the absurdity of the gatekeepingness of the UK system and how it's gotten to a point of just being assembly line. Zoom, zoom. And then they talk about how great the NHS is. So like, I love listening to like, and I'm a moderate. I love listening to like hardcore American liberals that are like damn near socialists or like communists being like, we need national health care and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you don't know how good you have it. Because effectively in that situation, it's like the NHS. You're in this giant, like, oh, you need an MRI? Well, the next one available is in 18 months. We hope you live until then. Like, it's just crazy how long the delays are for some of the care and this the lack of personalization that's done. So I feel for you, because people who walk in my clinic just tell me what they want, and then I customize everything for them. Like I mean, I could probably even be crappy at doing hormones or just average at best, but the fact that I just listen to them and I make an effort to give them what it is they're looking for sets me apart from like the overwhelming majority of providers. To be honest, if I were a young person in the United States right now, and I were looking to do HRT, I don't know that I would go to like a hormone center. I think I would probably try and develop a relationship with a family provider that like was young and like recently graduated and like open-minded, and just approach them and be like, this is what I'm looking to do. Would you be willing to do this? Until I found somebody that was. Because like, I did something similar when I had a terrible hernia and I rejected mesh. And I went to different surgeons and I asked them to take it out. No one would take it out. So I went and I figured out basically exactly where the mesh was bad by drawing a grid on myself and then injecting Marcaine until I figured out like where the nerve entrapment was. And I went to this local surgeon and I was like, in grid A7, B14, blah, blah, because I had like literally like Sharpied myself for like a month. I was like, I need you to go in here and cut this out. And the guy was like, I don't know. I was like, just listen, like, this is what I'm looking to do. Worst case scenario, you don't help me at all and you get paid to do the job. Just, would you check this out for me? And I was in terrible chronic pain at the time. He was like, sure, okay. I wake up from surgery and I'm all like, and there's this cup sitting in front of me and the cup is full of the like balls of meshoma that I knew were there. I knew they were there and the guy took them out and I've not been in pain since. And like, I could do that because I'm a doctor and I just ordered myself a case of Marcaine and did self blocks to figure out where it was. That is not an advantage that many people have, but you can advocate for yourself. You can speak up for your, unless you're in the UK, then you're just screwed. But if you're an American watching this, you can advocate for yourself because our system, the way that it is, basic capitalistic medicine, like money talks. So like you can in theory pay cash, go anywhere. And as long as you can convince somebody that what you want to do is not reckless, you can get it done. But you need to be well enough educated about the topic that you don't walk in there being like, I want the Powers method, because that is not going to go well. You need to be able to be like, this is what I want. This is why I want you to prescribe this. This is why it's safer than another option. This is what I'm looking to do, and this is why. And I feel like most reasonable physicians would listen to you.
I think that's a very interesting piece of advice there, is advocating for yourself and also trying, not always thinking, oh, well, I've consulted with the best of the best in my city and everybody respects this doctor who's been practicing for 50 years. It might be worth trying someone who's new on the scene and getting a second and a third and a fourth opinion if you can. We know that it's often, depending where you live, consultations cost money, so it's not always easy. But it's definitely a good piece of advice to get as many opinions as you can and not give up. And I
want to put that out there as a thing. The money thing you mentioned is very important. I don't tell this a lot, and I'm kind of being a little more open about it lately because I feel like it's been more a thing. But 14 years ago, I was living in my car. I had nothing. I came home from Spain, and my father basically was like, yeah, well, you're an adult now, so good luck. And I had $100 in my bank account. And I was like, I thought I could stay with you guys for a while. He's like, no, you have a college degree. You go find, you make yourself in the world. So I literally lived out of my car for a few weeks until I could get housing, and I was homeless effectively, and like showering at like a gym or stuff like that. And like I got a job, and then I applied to med school after working that job for a while, and I got rejected. I spent thousands of dollars applying, and so I said, okay, I'm going to try again. And I tried, and I studied, and I did better, and blah blah. And I finally got in the second time, and then I was dirt poor, but I was in med school, and I had literally like. And even after the fire, when I got reset to zero, I'm now like my clinic expanded. I now have more exam rooms. Like we continue to grow. life literally will give you what you want if you work hard enough for it. So if you don't have the money to go to a doctor and you really truly want that, that's the thing you want, then you need to look at your situation and be like, how can I obtain this? And just do it. If it requires you to work 2 jobs for a while, then that's what you have to do. But like, I did a lot of very unpleasant things for a long time to get to where I am right now because I just refused to accept failure. I didn't get into med school my first try. I got rejected. I spent thousands of dollars on applications. Nothing. I have nothing to show for my first year at applications. And I just said, nope, this is what I want to do. And I did it again, second time, which was really hard to work a whole nother year to save up the money for thousands of dollars in med school applications, knowing I could be rejected again. Thankfully, the second time I get in. But if I had been rejected a second time, you bet your ass I would have done it a third. And so,
well,
like,
that's
just
an important message of perseverance.
If you want something, you have to get it yourself. It's not going to just come to you. If you're feeling depressed right now and you're like, the pandemic and everything sucks and blah, blah, and like my life is miserable, you can go to a doctor and you can get help. You can say, hey, I'm not feeling right. I'm not doing well. I'm going to make a phone call. I'm going to make an appointment. And then I'm going to get on the bus and go to the doctor and go to the appointment and do the thing. And then start feeling a little better and then work on getting a new job. I hate my job. I'm going to get a new, like, you have to take your misery and redirect it into like getting better. So if you have transition goals and you're not getting there, you have to look at where your energy goes. Like, we're all awake for 16 hours a day, right? So like, if you're not getting what you want from your current doctor and you don't think you can, find another one. If you can't afford that doctor, well, then you need to find a way to accrue sufficient money such that you can then do, like, each thing has its own roadblock. But if you get to the point where you look at, like, if you took me when I was in that situation in my car and asked me would I be here today, my answer would have been yes. But if you had actually laid out every roadblock I had hit up to that point, oh my God, it would have been so overwhelming. I'd have been like, I can never do it. But each roadblock I hit along the way, things, residency or this or like this problem, each one I individually addressed and overcame. So like, if your goal is to see X doctor or to get X treatment or to do whatever, I'm telling you, you can do it. If you are like physically able, like you're literally like you're of sound mind and body, you can do it. Anybody can.
Dr. Powers, someone in here in the group, Salara, is asking if she's, seeks out a primary care doctor, where can she point them in order to get up to speed on the Dr. Powers methodology?
Well, I mean, the YouTube video is for version like 5.4. And then on my website, powersellinmedicine.com is version 6. And then they can just go to the subreddit. But that being said, I no longer respond to questions from anybody who isn't a doctor. But if a doctor messages me and is like, hey, I have a patient and blah, 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 I always answer those. And I get now like 5 or 6 of those a day. Whereas before I was like getting 5 or 6 random people. And then I was getting like 50 to 60 random people. And then I was getting like, too many. And I stopped doing those. So now if they're a doctor and their doctor wants to talk to me, I will answer any question their doctor has from anywhere on earth. Any doctor who emails me, I always answer.
Fantastic. So just get them on the subreddit. Get your doctor on the subreddit and
website.
And Dr. Powers will respond to their questions. And I'm just going to take one more question because I know we're running out of time here. Can you both talk about family acceptance and passing? Sometimes passing helps stubborn family members, especially after things like facial feminization. So what can we do to educate more broadly that non-passing trans people are still valid? Sarah, would you like to?
Yeah, sure. I hate the concept of passing. I pass as me. I pass as Sarah. And that unapologetic way that I live my life has definitely helped me. And I think that the reason why some families latch on to the idea that you have to pass to be accepted or to be loved in the family, I really, really hate that concept. And I think it's more about educating the family gently and as simply as possible that gender is a spectrum, and it's not about trying to fit into, you know, the cis normative ideas of what a man looks like or what a woman looks like. Every single feature that someone would point to me and be like, oh, that's manly, then I can point to 50 cisgender women all around the world who have got more manly features or sounds than I do. You know, it's just the whole concept of passing is just another cis normative stick to beat us with. I think ignore it, live your own life, be happy, do whatever it takes.
Thank you for that, Sarah. I think that's wise advice. Both of you have provided such wisdom here, and I really appreciate the time. So I think we're going to round out now and just provide one takeaway message. If you could let us know what you would like our listeners to remember from today's discussion in a nutshell. For example, what kinds of advice you might have for parents or partners who need to know about HRT, body dysmorphia, etc. How would you speak to them right now? Sarah, would you like to?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's just like make your own network, meet other trans people, meet other allies. You know, the most important thing is finding people that you can relate to, whether they be trans, whether they be cis, whether they be cute little black cats like this. You know, it's just find your own support network, make your own support network, and never give up on that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. How about you, Dr. Powers? Do you have a takeaway message here?
Some more final
words.
Internal. Never expect anybody to respect you if you don't respect yourself. So if you yourself are not okay with who you are as a person, don't expect anybody else to be okay with it. And Sarah spoke very much on that of like, I'm unapologetically who I am. Passing is a thing that you should do if you want to do it for you. When people start hormones, I ask them a question that I ask almost every single patient. And I said, if the world ended and there was a virus that wiped out 99.999% of humanity and you'd survive, you probably will never see another human for the rest of your life. So far, the survivors are like, you know, just a couple hundred of them over the whole planet. And you're like one of the last people alive. Would you still take your hormones? And that really tells you flat out whether or not someone's trans or not. Because if someone still would want to take their hormones, knowing full well that society doesn't exist, like no one's ever going to look at them and care whether or not they pass. Passing has now been removed from the equation. It's about how they feel inside their own head. So does the estrogen work as an antidepressant for you? Or does testosterone? Do you feel better as a human being on these things? Do you want your body to look like this for you, not for your family, not for friends, not for anybody else? The answer to that is yes, and those are good candidates for treatment. If the answer to that is I don't know, it's generally you should go to therapy and figure that out. And that's not to say that someone couldn't use estrogen who didn't feel that way, because I do. I rub estrogen on my face twice a week because it makes me look younger. And that's the reason. I don't have to have some like crazy jet. I literally like to look younger. I'm going to be 40 here in a couple of years and I look like this. So like, it's a pretty cool trick. But that being said, for somebody who's literally struggling with their family accepting them or friends accepting them or whatever, if you haven't accepted yourself, what do you expect them to do? So if you have not yet come to peace with who you are, I strongly advise you seek out therapy to do that. Because if you're not comfortable with who you are as you are in your current state, let me tell you, you're not going to be comfortable with who you are 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road. Because I'm still not fully comfortable with who I am. I wish I was as buff as I was when I rode for Pitt's crew team. I wish I was better looking. I wish my hair was as blonde as I was when I was younger. I wish I didn't have this divot on the side of my head where my hair looks like it's starting to finally retract as I get older. But like, I wish a lot of things, but there's nothing I can do about it, right? So I have to come to peace with who I am and be okay with this guy. Because if I go out in public and I'm thinking the entire time I'm out there, oh, I have a bad breakout right now, my acne's coming back, my hair is retracted, and I don't look very good, and this and that. And that's what's going through my head as I walk up to someone and I'm like, respect me. It's conveyed to them like in a subtle, like nonverbal way. I don't respect myself. I don't value myself. And so it's subconsciously conveyed to them that like you're not of value because you don't show that you value yourself. And this is why a lot of this sounds bad, but a lot of trans people end up in bad situations and bad relationships because they don't value themselves. And so they have someone that pays them positive attention. And as a result, they are not getting a whole lot of that. They will then tolerate all kinds of bullshit that they're put through by that same person in exchange for that positive affection and attention. Because they don't value themselves enough to be like, no, that's not okay for you to treat me that way. And I see that happen way too much. So with families, it's the same thing. If you don't value yourself enough to stand up to your family and be like, no, if you don't want to, if I can't come to blankety blank's wedding as myself, then I will not come. And they're like, well, fine, don't come then. And be like, okay. And then you have to be at peace with that. And if you're not at peace with your own transition then. And so that means you need to work on yourself before you get back there. That's my advice.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. I think that is very interesting advice. And I just like to add that we've just put a link down in the comments to a post on the Facialteam blog, which is about basically what we're talking about this. You know, we don't like to talk about passing. It's more about, you know, hashtag it's for me. It's about being at peace, like you said, Dr. Powers, with yourself. And Sarah, would you like to add anything else in response to what Dr. Powers has said?
I agree with it so much. You know, like, be yourself. You know, obviously don't be nasty, but screw everyone else. Look at yourself, be supportive, and trust yourself. Trust your instincts as well.
You're gonna die. Don't forget. Have as much fun as you can till then. So if you're not enjoying it, you better change it up.
Heck yeah.
Exactly. So can Sarah, can you tell us how to get in touch with you and where people can find more information about the My Generation video? There's a My Generation.
Yes. So for Trans Pride, I barely mentioned it today. That we have if you look up My Generation on YouTube, every year there is a professionally produced video about the event. And so yeah, My Generation on YouTube. I am also on Facebook and Twitter at Sarah Savage. And once again, my books are on bookshop.org or multinational corporation that sells books.
Perfect. Yes, I know we mentioned it before, but it's always good to repeat it again. The links are in the comments, and we'll also put the links in the description of the video. Once the stream has ended, you'll be able to access those whenever you like. And Dr. Powers, is there a way, well, we've already talked about it, really, to contact you on your subreddit, which the link is already.
That's the easiest way. If you have questions about becoming a patient or things related to the office, it's questions@powersfamilymedicine.com. If your doctor wants to talk to me, I'll talk to them via that, but otherwise I can't answer medical questions if people aren't my patient. If you have medical questions, post them on the subreddit. And I have a Facebook page. If you search for it on Facebook, it's just Dr. William Powers, Powers Family Medicine. You can find that. And I post random crap on there too.
Perfect. And it's okay to swear.
Sometimes. Oh yeah, and follow my cats on Instagram.
Yes.
_Detroit.
I follow them. So thank you so much, both of you. Sarah Savage of the UK, Dr. William Powers of the USA. I really appreciate it. Please, for those of you who are here, put claps in the comments. Show us your support.
Thank you.
Put your claps in. Yes, both Sarah and Dr. Powers, you should come into YouTube and have a look at the comments and everything afterwards, because there's a lot that I couldn't include in the conversation. So viewers, thank you so much. Your input.
I'm literally going to go see a patient in 30 seconds.
Okay.
I can literally hear them being roomed right now. So.
Okay, we're going. Stay tuned, everybody, for upcoming lives. We've got some more family themes coming up in this month and in December. And please join our patient peer group on Facebook and our newsletter. Oh, look at the kitty. Hyperallergenic clinic kitty that helps you feel good about going to see the doctor for those people who feel nervous. She's beautiful, or he's beautiful.
Don't misgender my cat.
They're beautiful.
He uses he, him pronouns. His name's Hyperion.
Z is beautiful.
Have you learned nothing?
I have learned nothing.
All my cats are boys. All of them are boys.
So for those of you who are healthcare professionals, please continue your good work and show your support, please, everybody, to the LGBTQI community. Tweet the powers that be and help those charities like Brighton Trans Pride and GLAD that are doing work to help basic human rights like healthcare access and peeing are respected. So thank you, everybody. Remember, your happiness and healthcare matters. Bye, everybody.
See ya.